With the Indian economy recovering from the coronavirus pandemic, we caught up with Dr. D. Subbarao, former RBI governor, to know how sustainable this economic recovery is and what lies ahead for India. So let me begin by asking you, sir, how are you assessing the state of the economy now that we are coming out of the second wave? So if we are able to, sustain this recovery, what is your outlook on the medium term for the Indian economy?
Well, I've just spoken about it. The economy contracted by 7.3% last year. Estimates are that it will expand by 9.5 to 10% this year, which is a V-shaped recovery, but only in a very technical sense, because even if we actually grow by 9.5 to 10% this year, the output this fiscal year, FY22, will still be lower than what it would have been had there been no pandemic. It would be 6 to 7% lower. So there would be some permanent loss of income, which is quite distressing in any country, particularly in a poor country like ours, because the burden of this loss of permanent income is falling on the lower segments of the population.
Right.
It's they who've lost jobs, who've lost incomes, who've run up debt, and inequalities are widened. So I think as much as it's a matter of comfort that the economy has recovered, we must be sensitive to the scars it's going to leave behind.
So, sir, is there any prescription to how do we, bridge this gap of inequality that we have seen because
There
of
are
the pandemic?
lots of things we need to do. It's just difficult to tell them in an interview.
Just
But
one
I
or
think
two important
we
points.
need to focus on creating employment, because again, the employment situation is quite distressing. People have lost jobs. The number of people employed is actually coming down, not just in percentage terms, but in absolute terms. And labor is shifting from high productive manufacturing sector to low productive agriculture sector, which is the reverse of what should be happening. Because development experience, labor should move from low productivity agriculture to higher productivity industry as countries get richer. We'll be moving in the reverse direction. So I think we should pay specific attention to creating employment as much as we pay attention to growth.
And so for that, from that point of view, government also introduced Atmanirbhar Bharat package. So do you think that will be enough to have an employment, or do we need more to be on a sustainable growth trajectory?
The Atmanirbhar package is a very wide canvas. And the employment problem is also very deep and very wide. It's not as if it's come today. We've had an employment problem, it's getting worse. So as much as the Atmanirbhar package has many objectives, many targets, wide canvas, I don't think that by itself can be an adequate solution to the employment problem. Of course, to create employment, you need investment. As much as Atmanirbhar's objective is to generate investment, it will contribute to investment. But for employment purposes, we need to do more than generating investment. We need to see that more people are into or at least medium and small industries are supported because they are employment intensive relative to large corporates. We need to concentrate or focus on enhancing skills so that productivity goes up.
Right.
So you spoke about the need for capex. The government needs to invest in infrastructure. The industry, the private segment needs to invest in creating more capacities. But the private sector won't invest in capacities till they see the demand coming.
Right.
And with a squeeze on consumption, with a squeeze on the disposable income in people's hand, it's a conundrum. So how does one come out of this conundrum?
I'm hoping that as the economy grows 9.5 to 10% this year, some of the slack will be used up. And there's also going to be demand from exports, right? Because investment will also respond to exports. So I'm hoping that the first trigger for investment demand will come from exports, and investment demand from domestic consumption will pick up after that.
And how much of a time gap do you see between?
I really have no idea. But hopefully next fiscal year we should see private investment demand picking up.
Okay. During the course of the pandemic, sir, had you been the helm of the RBI, if I may create a hypothetical situation, would you have dealt with the situation, at least the economic situation, differently? And if so, what all would have,
I don't think I would have done anything differently because the RBI is a strong institution. The governor takes advice and depends on the analysis and advice of the staff. I would have had the same analysis and advice, and I think in the event RBI has done a great job. But the challenge now is to come out of this expansionary policy in a non-disruptive way. At the same time, support growth and ensure that inflation is contained.
Any possible ways through which we can start exiting because we are seeing high inflation and
Well,
monetary policy will
it's
only
quite clear.
start.
Everybody is expecting that RBI will start first by withdrawing liquidity. First, withdrawing floating liquidity and then withdrawing liquidity on a permanent basis. Then raising the reverse repo rate and then raising the repo rate. It's a long-run process, and they have to keep the market informed of telegraph their intentions.
Okay. So separately, there were fears that we'll have a lot of NPAs after the pandemic, but then the situation is not as bad as it was expected, and then now we have a bad bank. Do you think the troubles of NPA are behind us now?
I'm scared to say that, but I think the worst is behind us. In fact, I believe that large corporates have largely deleveraged. Banks are able to raise money from the market. They are provided for the NPAs. Of course, these NPAs have to be resolved, which will take time. But I think we're not creating fresh NPAs at the same level as we were doing earlier. So on a net basis, NPAs should come down. I think they've come down substantially and they will continue to come down.
Bank, do you see any operational challenges over the next 5 years during which the bank has to be operational?
Yeah, we have no experience with a bad bank, so I have no experience personally, but there will certainly be challenges about agreeing on a price and what if bidders back out, if the security receipts are not honored, some of the promoters trying to come back into it. Okay, so there will be problems, but I think we have to. It cannot be that we will say there'll be no problems. We should approach this with a mindset of saying that if there will be problems, and we will resolve them as we get to them.
Lastly, sir, we have a 6 trillion asset monetization program. What could be the possible challenges that the government might face while monetizing these assets?
Many challenges I think they would be facing. But again, let me say up front that those challenges are no reason for not doing it. Asset monetization is the right thing to do, because only then can the government turn the money around to build fresh infrastructure. There will be challenges in terms of the bidding process, transparency of the bidding process, dispute resolution, indicating clear performance parameters, flexibility in the contract. Because the earlier PPP model failed because of the lack of experience on both sides in contract management and lack of knowledge. Hopefully, this will of course a complex thing, but forecasting demand of a growing asset will be less difficult than forecasting demand of an asset that's going to be built. So there will be many challenges, and they'll have to cross the river by feeling the stones.
So one last question, sir. We have a target of $5 trillion economy by 24-25. Given the state of the economy right now, what's an honest opinion on this? Can we reach that goal by 24-25, or do you see the can getting kicked down the road, or the $5 trillion being trimmed to, let's say,
2025 looks difficult. I don't know what the absolute number now is. Maybe 2.5 trillion, something like that. Yeah, doubling that in a matter of 4 years is very difficult. So I think we should be more realistic, but still have ambitious but challenging targets, challenging but realizable targets.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.